What a missile will do is it'll fly over the tank, then down and then 90 degrees straight into the top of the turret, which is less well defended.
This scenario has played out hundreds of times over the past 14 months, Ukraine using Western weapons to devastating effect. Russia, according to one recent estimate, has lost up to half its operational tank fleet in this war. Now Western officials say Russia's dusting off much older models to replace them.
This gun was used on the Su-100 tank destroyer in 1944, so it's a Second World War gun.
Including the T-55, first built in the 1940s, this one now housed at the Imperial War Museum outside Cambridge. Satellite imagery from a storage facility in Russia's Far East showing dozens of tanks have been removed in the last year. This image showing the T-55 at that same facility. Video that first surfaced in March also showing a trainload on the move, reportedly somewhere in Russia. The Russian Ministry of Defense hasn't confirmed their deployment, but in recent weeks, well-connected Russian bloggers have begun showing T-55s in Russian-occupied territory in Ukraine.
There's so many of these were manufactured, over 100,000 altogether, and the parts, the basic mechanical parts are all interchangeable. So there will be vast stockpiles of these.
The T-55 was a central piece of the Soviet Union's Cold War arsenal, helping crush democratic uprisings in Eastern Europe. Hungary in 1956, the Prague Spring 12 years later. But by the time Iraq used them in the Gulf War in the early 90s,
we took out, all told, 14 T-55 tanks.
They were already outclassed by US M1 Abrams and British Challengers. Earlier versions of the tanks NATO countries are now supplying to Ukraine.
I think faced with Western weapons, the Russians must expect very heavy casualties if they expect to move forward using that type of system.
Experts say behind the official propaganda, Russia cannot build new weapons quick enough. Western sanctions primarily targeting Russia's access to higher tech parts for weapons have made it much harder for them to manufacture more modern equipment. Older, simpler tanks like this, thousands of them just sitting in storage, provide an alternative. But this against, say, a Leopard 2 or a Challenger, what happens?
If it's a one-on-one tank engagement over a reasonable distance, this will lose every time. But in wooded or closer built environments, this is adequate.
It's also simpler to maintain and train on than newer systems, an advantage for Russia's mobilized troops.
Dig a pit, sit the tank in the pit so you can only see the turret, and then that can be used to defend a front line against a counterattack.
Russia is now digging in with everything it has, as Ukraine gets ready for what may be its biggest counteroffensive yet. Claire Sebastian, CNN, in Duxford, England.